Frank, let's talk about local films. A place called Sacramento is an event, what, every year?
Every year,
that showcases local films.
Right.
And you're always in it, right? You always have films that come.
I'm not always in it, but we have made about 11 or 12 short movies, so 11 or 12 years over the 15 years that a place called Sacramento has been running. We'll have just about every year, yeah, we have one of our movies in it. And not to say that, you know, Frank's hogging the show here. Really what a place called Sacramento from Access Sacramento, they're the producers of the festival, really has been trying to do is make a film festival that allows people that have never been in the filmmaking process before to get their feet wet and to rub elbows with people who have been making films for a long time. I guess that's me, since I've been doing this since I was 12. And that was a long time, yeah. But we've, so we pair up with people that are brand new script writers, brand new filmmakers, and we bring a lot of the toys and tools and expertise to get it done, really, among other things, because one of the more difficult parts in this film festival is that most of these people are script writers. They submit scripts to Access, and then 10 are chosen to be produced, this being one of them, coming from us, a movie called Underwater. And it would be very difficult for many of these people if they were doing it by themselves, because first of all, making a 10-minute movie, a compelling story in 10 minutes is very difficult. Most short movies are around 15, 18, 20, 30 minutes. 10 minutes is very difficult. It's hard to tell the backstories, the motivations of the characters, all that. And then secondly, there's a hard and fast deadline that this movie has to be made and produced by and submitted to Access. And 2 minutes past the deadline, you don't get in. And as people who have done anything in video know, there are so many circuits and processes. All it takes is one glitch in the computer and you don't make the deadline. So it's very difficult for a new person to be really successful at this, which is why they paired a lot of us up with other pros in the business. A lot of the newbies are paired up with pros.
I have a question. If it's shown at the Crest, which is a movie theater,
yeah.
Are you saying that you're actually showing a video and not a film?
I got to tell you, just about every movie theater today is showing video.
I didn't know that.
I have to bring him along every once in a while, yes. Almost none of the theaters in Sacramento are actually running film anymore. It's all digital. And you can understand why that is. Making prints is expensive, really expensive. And a print to a movie theater may only last about a week or two before it gets all scratched up and goes then to the second layer of theaters out in Auburn or Colfax or something like that. And so they have to keep making new prints. Not only that, if you have a film opening in 5,000 theaters, that's 5,000 prints of that movie every week, by the way. Digitally, we can just upload it to a satellite and download it to a theater tomorrow night. And on top of that, we can make changes to the movie. You said, you know, that ending wasn't really satisfactory to the audience. Let's change it to one of our other endings and replace all the movies in 5,000 theaters overnight.
Wow.
The big issue was who was going to get to pay for the changeover in projection equipment from film to digital projectors. And you know, the theater owners thought the studios should pay for it because it was their product. And of course the studio said, no, it's your business, theater owners, you should pay for it. They kind of came to a balance later, and so that there wouldn't be a big falderall and all of a sudden movie production would stop. But just about every theater now is video projection. And so,
I didn't know that.
To answer that question, at the Crest, yeah, they have a big video projector about mid-house, and it looks gorgeous. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I saw it in August. It looked really nice. I saw some of those short films you were talking about. So tell me about this film here.
Well, this film was actually written by a gentleman, Frank Ingram, who was just retired from the state. I was just telling Alex that the interesting thing with Access is that the film festival called A Place Called Sacramento was primarily meant for young people to get into the filmmaking process and rub elbows with the pros. Well, the opposite now is happening. This film was actually made by about 5 people that are, almost all of them are over the age of 60. So it's kind of a senior citizens film festival at the same time. But then you were saying the music industry is kind of
Yeah.
on the same place.
Paul McCartney's 70 years old and he's still the top concert draw.
Right, we were talking about Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and been on tour this last month, and it's kind of a white hair tour.
I saw a video of that and I thought, wow, they still sound great. So.
You kind of don't want a heavy backlight though, because that makes your white hair just bloom, you know? It's just, don't want to do that.
But the point is, it's now, and maybe it's the internet age, because the internet allows all these eras at your fingertips, whereas before, last century, you know, once something was 10 years old, it was considered, oh, that's out of date, that's unhip,
Yeah.
you know, that's forgotten. Although films always maintained, like 50s films, like B movies, black and white movies, they always had a certain novelty to them.
Sure.
Or any classic films lived on, or classic music like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones lived on. But a lot of artists fell through the cracks because they were tagged as old or outside the demo, like radio likes to say. But these days, I think it's really because of the internet. It allows all these eras all on one page. You know, you get a menu of all these eras and you just click where you want to go.
Well, and another
It's like a time machine.
Yes. And another point to where you're going with the internet age, it's changing the business of distribution dramatically. Because distribution of anybody's movie was controlled by 10 or 11 companies in Los Angeles. And if they didn't pick up your movie would never see the light of day anywhere other than on a VHS cassette. Well, now things are changed and the playing field is getting a little more level with downloadable video on demand. And pretty soon, we're going to be looking at distribution being all internet download. And that the theater experience will just be over here on the side a little bit. But because people are used to watching major movies now on their big screens in their living room and their family room with big sound systems, unless they really want the theater experience, they don't go for the theater experience anymore because they can pop their own popcorn at a fraction of the cost and watch Transformers on their big screen at home. That's wonderful for people like me because then I can sell to them directly little movies, full-length feature movies that I produced without having to go through Lionsgate or Warner Brothers or Paramount.
Isn't Lionsgate kind of an independent film company, or are they bigger than that?
Well, they call their categories are referred to as the majors and the mini majors.
Okay.
They're still a huge company, but they're not MGM, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Universal, which are considered the majors. The mini majors would certainly be people like Lionsgate.
Pixar, or that's a major.
The lines are blurred an awful lot. You know, Lionsgate, for example, doesn't own a studio.
Okay.
They're a business and they're business offices, whereas Paramount owns a studio. And maybe nowadays that's not the best thing to own. You know, this is the age of the .com business. Owning a brick and mortar studio, like I do, is not maybe the best business model because the overhead is so high for this kind of thing. And that also speaks to where the movies are made. The movies, as everybody starts to realize, are not made in Los Angeles anymore. They're made everywhere else because of better tax incentive deals.
I heard that Louisiana is a place where
It's
they're
a big one.
migrating.
New Mexico, North Carolina, South Carolina, Michigan, and of course Canada that started it all. The deals are still made in Los Angeles. All the financing and the distribution deals are all still in LA and some in New York. But movies are made elsewhere. The only thing that's still really made in Los Angeles are the episodic television shows. And not all of them. Actually, one of the biggest shows around right now on cable is Breaking Bad. And that's shot all in Albuquerque because they got such a great financial deal there. But shows like The Mentalist and things like that, they're all shot in LA. Once in a while they'll leave LA, like The Mentalist came up here to do a couple of episodes here, but it's only just because they want certain exteriors. They're never going to come up here to do interiors because it costs them way too much, which is also why many people who have thought about starting a television or a movie, making a large movie studio in this town, it never happens because there's no real business there. the LA producers don't want the expense of coming up here to do interiors. They'll come up here to do our western scenes, the river scenes, things like that. But then they go right back to LA to do the interiors, and it makes business sense to do it that way.
So Sacramento's a great place for stock footage maybe, and that's about it?
That's true. That's exactly true. Yeah, we're not going to have a film studio industry in this town. That doesn't make sense. Because if it did make sense, Treasure Island in San Francisco would be humming along. George Lucas would have a big film studio in Marin or somewhere. Francis Coppola, who thought about doing it with American Zoetrope, would have a big film studio. Mare Island would be cooking along. None of those have happened for very good business and economic reasons.
Frank, I want to talk with you more about business and economic reasons, or maybe rewards about film and video coming up in the studio.
I'd love to. Great. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.